Hi guys, we are continuing with the chapter Constitution Why and How. In this video, we will discuss about the influence of national movement on Constitution of India. We will discuss about the institutional arrangement in the Constitution of India and the various provisions that were borrowed from the Constitution of different countries. We'll see each one of them one by one. We know that the Constituent Assembly of India was a diverse body, and there could be possibility of not having consensus had there not been national movement, because the ideas, principles, values which got emerged during the long struggle for freedom, they were imbibed in the constitution because there was consensus on these values and principles. In a way, we can say that the Constituent Assembly was giving shape to the principles it inherited from the national movement. How the shape of the government should be, values it should uphold, inequalities it should overcome, all such questions were discussed and debated during the national movement. And these questions were relevant for the making of constitution. Summary of such principles, ideas and values was compiled by Nehruji in Objective Resolution. Objective Resolution defined the aim of assembly. Our constitution gave institutional expression to these fundamental commitments like equality, liberty, democracy, sovereignty, and cosmopolitan identity. So such values were included in the constitution because the commitment on these values was made during the national movement. We can say that our constitution is not merely a maze of rules and procedures, but it is a moral commitment to establish a government that will fulfill promises made by the national movement. Institutional arrangements. We have seen what make constitution an effective constitution, and we have seen in case of India, power of government is divided among institutions like legislature, executive and judiciary. And there is principle of checks and balances which is implemented on every institution. We adopted parliamentary form of government and federal structure. Parliamentary form of government divides power between legislature and executive. They work on the principle of cooperation and coordination, but the executive is collectively responsible to the legislature. In federal structure, the polity is divided between center and state. So on one hand, the power was divided between legislature and executive, and on the other hand, the power was divided between states and central government. While evolving most balanced government arrangement, some of the provisions were taken from the constitution of different countries. We learned from the experience of other countries and we included those in our constitution. We'll see these important provisions one by one. British Constitution. We adopted first past the post system. First past the post system is a method of election in which there is a clear winner. The one who got the maximum number of votes will be declared winner. So this is first past the post system. This method of election we adopted in our constitution. Parliamentary form of government. As we discussed parliamentary form of government, It works on the principle of cooperation and coordination, and power is divided between legislature and executive, but executives are collectively responsible to the legislature. It is different from the presidential system of United States, which work on the principle of separation of power. So we adopted parliamentary form of government from the British Constitution. Rule of law. Rule of law means equality before law. Every citizen is equal in front of the law of land. And there is absence of arbitrary power. No man can be punished except for the breach of law of land. These two provisions of rule of law is included in our constitution, but there is third provision also in the rule of law which is not implemented in case of India. The third provision of rule of law says primacy of individual rights. It says that the constitution is result of the rights of individual, rather than the constitution being source of the individual rights. In case of India, we believe constitution is supreme and individual rights are derived from the Constitution of India. So this third provision of rule of law is not valid in case of India. But when it says equality before law and absence of arbitrary power, it is true in case of India as well. We borrowed this rule of law from British Constitution. Institution of Speaker and his role. We'll discuss the functioning of Parliament in later chapters and we'll discuss the role of a Speaker there. Law-making procedure. All these provisions were adopted from British Constitution. US Constitution. Fundamental rights. Power of judicial review and independent judiciary. From French Constitution, we adopted principle of liberty, equality and fraternity. These were the ideas on which French Revolution was fought, and these were included in the French Revolution, and we adopted it from the French Constitution. Irish Constitution, directive principle of state policies. Canadian Constitution, quasi-federal form of government. Quasi-federal form of government means we have a federal structure but with a strong center. Idea of residual power. Residual power means those subjects which are not included in the list of central government or in the list of state government. Central government can make laws on these subjects. This is the idea of residual power which we adopted from Canadian Constitution. From Japanese Constitution, we learned procedure established by law. It means that the law is valid if it has followed the correct procedure. It is different from due process of law, which is there in United States, which also checks if the law made is fair, just and not arbitrary. We adopted fundamental duties from Soviet Constitution, and suspension of fundamental rights during emergency was adopted from Germany. So these were the provisions we adopted from different countries. We learned from the experience of these countries and we adopted it. This is the end of first chapter. I'll share the notes in the link below. Thanks for watching this video.